it's Reagan, and today I'm here to bring you my December wrap-up. For the month of December, I feel like I always forget how busy the month is, and I did read. I read a total of 5 books, really enjoyed all the 5 books I read, but I wanted to read more, but you guys know how it is. Like the holidays, I feel like encompass so much more of your time that even I can anticipate and plan for every single year. But like I said, I enjoyed every single book I read this month, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. The first book I'm going to talk about is Witchwood by Tahereh Mafi. Now this is the second book to Furthermore, which is her middle grade fantasy series. Now I believe these books technically don't have to be read in order, so if the synopsis of Witchwood interests you more than Furthermore, I believe you can read this one first. Based on how the narrator tells the story, I believe they can kind of act as standalone individual novels, but I personally would say read Furthermore before you read Witchwood. Witchwood is a new magical story following a new main character set in a new magical land. We got a lot of new stuff happening in this book. This follows our main character Layli, who lives in a very cold magical world. It is a world where snow and winter is kind of always upon them, and Layli herself has a very interesting set of magical powers, and that is she dresses and prepares the dead for the death, for afterlife. She has a very grueling job, and because of some circumstances with her family, she has to handle all the work herself. And the townspeople in the town that she lives in definitely take advantage of this, and Layli at the beginning of the story is really literally losing steam and beginning to fade away. Enter in some of our favorite characters from the first novel, Furthermore, and offsets a whole adventure that I absolutely love. The story was definitely a little less whimsical than the first one, but it had such strong elements of friendship and also like complex plot themes that I just really loved. All of the characters themselves are just such a joy to read about, and the worlds that Tahereh Mafi thinks of are just so unbelievably creative. I really loved the winter setting, especially reading this in December and also living in Chicago. I was like, can relate girl, it's so cold outside. And overall, I just found the story to be really charming and a lot of fun. One of my favorite parts of this book is definitely the narrator. Middle grade narrators tend to just be like this kind of quirky, cheeky, all-knowing narrator that like has all of the information and only like lets you have little tidbits at a time, and also kind of lets their opinion shine through, and I always really enjoy that style of storytelling, and this was just so flipping good. I ended up giving this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was just so cute. The next book I completed this month was A Conspiracy of Kings by Megan Wallen Turner. This is the 4th book to the Thief series by Megan Wallen Turner. Again, I have incessantly talked about this series on my channel, so I'm gonna keep it brief, but I absolutely loved this novel. It's definitely not my favorite one of the series. I still feel like my favorite one is The King of Atolia, but this was incredible. We follow a new main character, as many of these novels do, and it was such a joy to read from his perspective once again, but we still, you know, of course, had the cast of characters we know and love. There was a lot of adventure, political intrigue, literally everything about this book series I love was still present in this novel. Can't wait to read the 5th book that just recently came out. I'm sure I'll be doing that soon, and I'm sure I will love it just as much as I've loved all of these. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. It was incredible, obviously. I love this book series so much. Next up was a book sent to me for review by HMH Teen, whom I'm working with for this video, and that is Meet Cute by a variety of authors. This is actually a short story anthology, basically full of a whole bunch of stories about when people first meet and fall in love. And it's not that they just meet and immediately fall in love, but it's more or less reading short stories of the beginning of many people's love stories. And this was so cute. Obviously, it's called Meet Cute, and I can attest to the fact that this book was so cute. About this anthology that I just feel like makes it so effective is the fact that it is literally just sharing the beginning of a love story, when 2 people first meet. So it's interesting because as a reader we have the dramatic irony and the understanding that all of these people eventually fall in love, but we don't actually see that happen. We don't get the rest of that story, but we have like that knowledge in the intensity of the first moment where these people meet. So we know what happens next, they don't, and it's just like kind of gives you this really like sweet feeling in your stomach. I don't know, it's like so cute. Honestly, there are so many of these stories where I wanted the rest of the book because I was like, but what happens next? I want to know how they get from point A to point B. Additionally, this anthology has such a wide range of types of relationships, types of characters, types of people, and all different types of places, experiencing all different types of things, meeting and falling in love, which just made it so lovely to read because it wasn't just like the same love story over and over and over again. Each story had something new to say and something fresh to express Fresh to express. Oh, getting a little rhymey. I have to say, some of my favorites were definitely the first one, Katie Katoukinos, I really loved. Nina LaCour's was amazing, but she's always been one of my favorite contemporary authors. I really enjoyed hers as well. And lastly, Emery Lord's I thought was so cute. It's about two girls meeting in an airport, and I was like, oh, I want the rest of the story so bad. But yeah, this was just so much fun to read, and I just felt like such a cute idea. They basically just felt like the beginning of all these little stories, but you like knew the ending, but you read the beginning. It was just really, really adorable, and I really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a great time. The next book I completed was The Power by Naomi Alderman. Now this is a book that I highly anticipated, and I enjoyed it. I have a lot of like mixed thoughts about this novel. First things first, this is a story written from a male historian's perspective. He's basically recounting when women gained the power to electrocute people by touch. And this completely changed the dynamic, the gender dynamics of this world. Women became the more powerful ones, men became the more like docile and fragile ones. This is a story that will really, really make you think. It's a multi-perspective story, both from the historian's point of view, but also as he recounts different very important like historical figures of this time period, and it's very interesting. I mean, to say that this author like turned gender dynamics on its head is like an understatement. This will really make you think both the concept of power and the consequences of possessing said power over someone else, and also how that translates into society and how it creates gender stereotypes in any which way or form. We talk about rape culture, like anything that you could possibly imagine this author touches on and does it in a very interesting way, and I found it to be a very thought-provoking novel. That being said, there were points in time in this book where I was not bored per se, that's not the correct word, but definitely wanting a little more from the characters I was reading from in itself, and the ending was also a little vague, and so I don't necessarily mind a vague ending, but I definitely wanted something a little more concrete so I was at least sure how this story ended. Ultimately, at the end of the day though, I'm glad I picked this book up. It really made me think. I had so many conversations with myself very late at night about this novel. It definitely, I felt like, had a lot to say about our current state of society, and it really makes you uncomfortable. It does all these things where women start doing all these horrible things and you're like, oh god, this is so uncomfortable, but like it's happening. The reverse is happening to women, and that's what she's trying to make you understand, and it was just so effective because of that. The story was strong, but ultimately at the end of the day, like, it was missing a few pieces for me here and there. So I ended up giving this a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I still highly recommend this book if you're at all interested, because it was very good. It's very, very dark, so keep that in mind. But yes. And the last book I read this year was one of my favorites of this year, and very, very different from The Power. I think I needed this book after I finished that. And that was Nevermore by Jessica Towson. This is a middle grade fantasy novel, and just everything I love in middle grade fantasy. This follows our main character, Morgan Crow, who is cursed, and she's essentially blamed for every bad thing that befalls her town, from broken lamps to broken limbs, and she's most of all blamed for her own personal curse, which states that she will die on the eve of her 11th birthday. And on the eve of her 11th birthday, she's actually swept away by a mysterious man called Jupiter North to a new place called Nevermore. Nevermore is full of magic and whimsy, and Jupiter North runs this incredible hotel where she stays. And in Nevermore, Morgan joins a set of trials to enter a secret society. This book is just chock full of so much fun. First off, the trial elements are just something I love to read. I always love magic competition, anything, I'm here for it, always, and I felt like this story did such a fun job introducing that. I thought it was so creative and so much fun to read. Morgan Crow as a main character is so funny, and she puts herself out there and she's adventurous. 2, the world of Nevermore was also just awesome. It's so unique. There's a big giant cat that talks, and I'm just like, yes. And all in all, it was just such a fun time reading about Morgan, making friends, learning magic, and also uncovering some secret mysteries that surround her. I cannot wait for the next book in this series, trilogy. I hope it's incredibly long because I want all the books. I thought this was a fantastic novel. I think this was her debut book. It was so good. Read it. 5 out of 5 stars. Alrighty guys, that was my December wrap up. Let me know down below some books you read this month that you loved, as I would love to know, and I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye.